We live? Cool. What's up, Rob? Good to see you, man.
Good to see you. Thank you for having me out.
I appreciate it. I never thought I'd have you come on, but finally we're here. Just for the people, tell them about yourself a little bit.
I've spent the last 20 years training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu coach, worked with a lot of different MMA guys. Minored in political science when I was in college. I've been involved in a lot of different political clubs and groups. And,
I can tell.
Yeah, and I work with a lot, and still try to volunteer and help other campaigns and things like that. So definitely love the political process in this country.
When did you really get into politics and stuff? Because you have real good, strong views, similar-minded to myself.
Well, the thing is crazy enough, I can remember whenever George Bush ran against President Bill Clinton back in the early 90s. I was a kid then, and I just was really enamored with the process.
Really?
I grew up during the Reagan years, and just fell in love with him.
Really? I got into it right as Hillary and Trump were going at it, and
okay.
because my whole family's been Democrat the whole time, so I just kind of blindly followed that, and then right as that election was happening, I was kind of starting to think for myself. You ever see those wreck videos where they're Ben Shapiro's killing people?
Right.
Some of the titles are wrecking Democrats, and I was like, well, these are my people. I gotta go check it out. And that's kind of when I was like, wait a second, I'm not a Democrat. I don't believe, I believe in pro-life. I believe Second Amendment, First Amendment, all that stuff. And then you just see the differences between people.
It's a big thing, and I think we've become more polarized because of the things the founding fathers warned against was a two-party system and things like that, because people are identifying with a party versus substance.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah.
Or we've aligned with social issues, which are very important, but the social ills of society are not cured via law. If that was the case, murder rate, rape, all the other crimes would not be as prevalent as they are. So those are some major things, and I think when we talk about conservative or liberal and things like that, those things align us a lot with particular ideas and beliefs that are true to us. But at the same time, too, I think there is some commonality between the two, but we're not able to bridge that gap because of the fact that we are, it's just like rooting for a sports team. Right?
Absolutely.
University of Kentucky Wildcat fans not going to pull for Louisville Cardinals. So
it's my team or the other one.
And that's become a big problem with some of the issues that we could find some commonality on. Obviously, the differences are there that we're not going to see eye to eye on, which separate typically.
But at least we're willing to converse and then debate the ideas. They just want to scream, especially on college campus and stuff. And they just want to not even project, just not even want to debate the topic. Just call you a Nazi or whatever, derogatory term. But that's what I see now more than ever.
It's very anti what this country was founded on. They do that side, and I hate to refer to them as they, but the left or
I make the distinction, liberal. The left from the liberal. I'm liberal on some issues, that's more of you're looking at something new, but the left is just so far out there, wanting to destroy the country.
Well, they've become very socialist, communist, authoritarian. So they've become very much what they write posters and make posters about, but they've become the very things that they say they're not or that they're against. So it's kind of.
I was wanting to hit on socialism because you just touched on it for a second, but on college campuses, it's being preached now. I had one professor just talk about Marxism. I think I told you just before. He wrote Marxism on the board. Right. He's like, "This is a good idea. You reallocate resources," and I almost I laughed out loud, and I thought he was going to hear me. But 12-1 is registered Democrat to Republican. Some college campuses, they do anonymous surveys, and they don't have one conservative teacher.
Yeah.
And that's crazy that it's just one way, that's political propaganda at its best, especially on college campuses where kids come to learn,
Well, one of the worst things that conservatives did was gave over the education system. And it is because the education system is very limited in its ability to teach and culture to an individual. It's very... our quality of education is far less. I know personally my child goes to a private school, and I can tell you the workload and course load that he has versus what I had at that time is a lot more. There's also 10-1 students. And we can obviously get into the rebuttals that if anybody's listening is going to say, well, teachers need to be paid this, and we spend the money in education. Now, whether that money is balanced and spread out where it needs to be, that's where we probably should have the conversation. I don't believe we need the buildings that we need.
That's true.
We're building these big artistic monuments that don't need. We need brick and mortar or aluminum buildings. As long as it's heated and cooled, let's put the money and resources into actually educating. But you can only get so much from education because why? Even if you have a phenomenal teacher, he can't be paid more because
Yeah.
of their performance, and tenure is a terrible idea.
Dude, we went over that several times. I hate tenure.
And it does. I mean, it breeds complacency.
It does, because they have no motivation to come into work. They can do anything they want, short of killing somebody, and they're going to have a job.
It's really hard for me to, and it's really scary. At the same time, too, you have 40% of college and high school kids that support socialism.
Oh yeah,
And I think the difference is what
may be close to 50 now. I think I saw a study.
And a lot of that has to do with what they were raised up. So when they're taught
they don't
socialism,
know better either.
No, they're taught Denmark, which Denmark's not.
No, Scandinavian.
They're not actually.
Didn't the prime minister come out and say we're not a socialist country?
Absolutely.
Was it Denmark, or it may have been one of the other ones? But
they have more free market than we have.
We do, yeah.
And where we grew up, my age group in particular, born in the 80s, we grew up with Russia, China.
Oh, for sure.
That was the examples of socialism for us. So we knew that socialism doesn't end. Viet Cong, things like that.
Yeah, well, it perplexes me because it's like, all you have to do is open a history book and see that it doesn't work. It killed 100 million people in the last 100 years. You just got to look at Mao's China, USSR, and Cuba. Those three alone, 100 million people died. Starvation, all the rest of it, just from socialist policy.
Had one of the top economies
right now
in the world 13 years later. Went from one of the top 5.
Yep,
their currency was in the top 5 as far as, and their economy was doing amazing. And now, they've raised their minimum wage like 200%.
Yeah, well,
or something
it's 4,000% inflation when I saw it, and people are eating cats and dogs in the street because there's no food. They don't have a functioning economy. Brink of civil war. You have a dictator. It's just awful. Like, you should see that socialism doesn't work. I don't know how many times it's like, it's not been tried properly yet. That's what you always hear. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Well, the scary thing is we already have forms of socialism in this country. So
yeah, and it's not, certain things aren't bad as a socialist policy, but you don't want a socialist government.
We have as much socialism as a government probably could have, to where it doesn't go to an authoritarian or the full collapse that socialism brings on, and then it's rebuilt as a communist.
Yeah.
And one of the sad things is I constantly hear that we're a democracy, and you hear newscasters, you hear politicians. It's not a democracy. We are a constitutional republic via democracy who elects local representatives through a democratic process who then go on and then vote for us.
Yeah, they want to convey that we're democracy to the people, but what happens in democracy alone? They always vote to give them mob rule, and they're like, hey, we want free stuff. Yeah. Nothing's free.
There is no
Bernie
free
Sanders.
Yeah, there is no free, and I try to. I don't understand the ideology that has led to this. Like, I don't understand. This country was built on hard work, like people working hard, suffering, sacrifice to give people they cared about or that they didn't even know an opportunity. Just an opportunity. Not everybody gets the same amount of opportunity. No one gets second chances. If you get one, that's an amazing blessing. But these things are taken for granted, and I think that mindset creates this victimhood in all of our fellow countrymen and women, and it's dangerous because then we start looking for someone to fix something instead of the only person that cures the ills of society or the ills in our life are us, like us as individuals. You want to end racism? Interact with people and set an example.
It's always being talked about.
You want to end poverty? Go out into your community. Help train people to go get jobs. Help things. The only way you change things is through interaction, us.
Yeah, it's culture.
Laws are punishment for something that's already happened. I always get very frustrated with that. It's like, punishment. A law is there as a punishment for something that's already happened. It doesn't prevent anything. The same people that would not do something because the law exists probably would not do that anyways. I would think on the high side, because there's a sense of higher consciousness or moral grounding or some other belief that's guiding them to not do those things. Yeah, they don't need a law to tell you not to do that.
Speaking of laws, I really wanted to get your thoughts on this. With New York setting the most liberal abortion policy or laws, rather, and you got Alabama and Georgia who are doing the strictest right now. What are your thoughts on abortion right now? Because you have polar ends right there.
Well, I think it's really scary when we start setting these laws the way they are, because it almost becomes kind of like what we were talking about earlier with the opposing sides. You look at what Illinois is doing. So now they've decided to go above and beyond New York's.
Have they? I haven't seen it.
Yeah, you have to check it out.
I know.
Really, you can go into late term.
I know they're talking about post-birth. Like, if you don't want it afterwards, they'll keep it comfortable.
The governor from Virginia.
Virginia, that's right. I saw it, yeah.
So
it's crazy.
For me, it's we have to have a logical conversation. I'm not going to use my religious beliefs if you don't.
Yeah, you have to make a secular argument.
I completely, there's a separation of church and state. However, the moment that you throw my beliefs in my face, then you're allowing me to use mine. So
That's true.
I think we need to keep it strictly constitutional.
Yeah.
So I believe it should be up to the states' rights. I believe it should be state rights. But don't argue with me about guns to save child's lives if you're going to okay the death because
900,000 a year almost.
Logically speaking, that's the exact same. I mean, it's life for life. Now we can argue the semantics about scenarios and situations and what's in the process, but ultimately, other than some time elapse, you're arguing. You can't argue for me to take away guns if that's the argument. To me, you can make a different argument, but let's not do that. Abortion should be states' rights.
Yeah, I believe in the decentralized command. Like, I don't like the national government thinking that they can govern better than a state can, because our country's so large. There's such a diverse group of people, the North, West and California and Seattle and all out there is way different than, the other side of the country. So it's really a culture thing, but I think it's just crazy that you can have an abortion up until birth in New York.
Yeah.
You can be having contractions and you can kill that baby.
Yeah.
It's like when it takes the first breath, it's like so right when it's in the womb before that, it's not a person.
Yeah. It's a really tough thing, and I think I try to take into account that the birthing process for a woman is a lot more intimate, probably more invasive than for me as a man. So I definitely want to be sensitive and cognitive of how they feel. I also want to be able to protect a life. You know what I mean? So we want to be able to protect a life as well. So we have to look at it and go, okay, well, from a constitutional standpoint, the only way it should be done is, I think state by state should have the right. If we're talking about a constitutional republic, we're going to empower the states. And if you live in a state that supports it, then you have the right to move that state. Or if you want to have an abortion and your state doesn't allow it, then maybe. I think that's balance. I think that's what helps. You know what I mean? Like, instead of forcing down everybody's throat, like, okay, one law covers all 50 states.
Yeah.
Because we've understood through the elections, California is never going to vote Republican. You know what I mean? New York's not going to go as well. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the laws in those places should be governed for those constituents.
For those people in the state. Yeah, I get that. It's just my biggest thing with abortion is just how crazy one way it is and how crazy the other way. Like, the conservative law on abortion right now is, you can't have it at all. Doctors get like 99 years in prison if they try to perform one. I was going to point out the hypocrisy. It's like they're saying that you shouldn't, as a man, you shouldn't have an opinion on abortion, which is crazy in itself. Yeah. But this is the same side that's saying you can be a man without having a vagina, but yet you can't have.
I completely believe that a man should have the right to have an opinion about it. Yeah, I think anybody can have. You can have an opinion. It's just like
good or bad.
Good or bad. Everybody has an opinion, and men are affected by this as well.
100%. It takes two to make a baby.
And a man doesn't have a say in whether or not the child is aborted or not aborted if he is in a situation. So we should at least allow that man that person to have a voice.
Yeah, 100%.
At least in, okay, what are the abortion laws going to be? It's like there's a balance there for everybody. Me personally, I completely would rather not. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm going to be on the end of, I don't believe in it. I don't prefer it. But I also understand that in a free society, right? I want to be able to own my own guns.
Yeah.
So we need to be able, there needs to be some time limits. I know a lot of people have made the argument that like 4 weeks or 5 weeks or something like that. I still personally disagree, but I understand also in the process of negotiating things, there has to be some compromise.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
So we differ on that.
Yeah.
Right. Still like you, still like me, hopefully.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But see, when I look at it, the only reason I think that you should be I'm all for choice. You should have contraceptives, birth control, all that stuff, right? But I think after heartbeat is established, I mean, I would like it never at all, but maybe the only exceptions I would like is, stillbirths where not, or the complications with the mother. But it's like they argue that point, but that's like it's with you add in
the statistics do not back it. The statistics do not back that argument in that regard.
It's ridiculous
because
it's like 7% if you add incest.
75% of the time,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
because of an inconvenience to life.
Exactly.
That's
I had
what
the
they label it
statistics
as.
up. Yeah, it's like almost 90-something% if you take out rape, incest, complications of the mother. It's ridiculous. So it's like we want to argue this little minute detail to the minor case for the majority
Correct.
of the abortion. So I just think that we should have the discussion. Nobody wants to talk anymore. That's the biggest thing right now.
Everybody wants to get mad and completely shut down. And the other thing with that is too is like, and I hate to blame one side or the other. The left is a lot less likely to sit down and have a conversation like you and I are right now.
Yeah.
The moment that you say something, instead of hearing you out and then countering back, it immediately turns into name calling.
Mm-hmm.
All right?
Yeah, ad hominem.
You don't get
right
to
away.
redefine everything. They redefine everything. Like racism now is
Oh,
completely redefined.
Yeah.
Calling someone a Nazi is the worst thing that we've done in the last 10 years. Whether you're calling a Democrat that, or you're calling a Republican that, or a Libertarian, whatever you're doing, that's a terrible thing. You're devaluing and desensitizing to people to what actually happened in Germany. And
it's all about how you feel rather than what actually is.
Well, the danger in making laws or policy based on empathy is just that. What one person is empathetic to, another person is not.
For sure.
So now that range goes here and there, and now elections create this as far as policy and life, and that's dangerous.
What do you think about how big the government is right now? Do you
too
think?
big.
Yeah. Do you think that we should
It's
it back?
It's too big in power and too small in ability.
Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It's way too big in.
For me, a general rule is everything the government works and does with, they suck at it. Everything they do.
It's not efficient at all.
Most of the socialist parts, they suck at. The VA, all the other ones.
It's exactly kind of things that we had alluded to earlier on when we talked about socialism. America already has socialism. We have the United States Postal Service.
Yeah.
And it is far less effective.
Look what happened when it got
than
privatized.
FedEx or USPS or UPS, excuse me. Even DHL, all these other private companies are run far better. The employees are taken care of better. How many times have they cut back work for USPS? They're talking about dropping down another day of mail delivery. So, and you can't talk to me about taxes because we've paid more taxes in the last individual years. We've paid more in taxes than we have at any point in history. So you're taking in more money as a government, factual. You can look that up. You can go to .gov and they're going to have it listed. We've taken in more tax dollars than we ever have, and we're still operating at a deficit. Why? Because of poorly run socialist programs.
Yep.
And it's always the case. Education versus private education, not as good.
Not even the same.
Not even close. We forget the role of the government, and we've allowed that through apathy and a lack of understanding. We've allowed rhetoric and talk to replace reading and history.
Yeah.
We are a constitutional republic, and I can't say that enough.
Yeah.
The Constitution limits the power of the government, not the people.
Yeah.
But we look at the Constitution as what we are allowed to do. That should not be the case. We have to use the Constitution to defend our right all the time, whether it's the Second Amendment or
well, that's what scares the hell out of me is in the next election, the Constitution is going to get ripped apart. As soon as if Hillary would have got in there, you could kiss the First Amendment goodbye, you could kiss the Second Amendment goodbye, and it just scares me. And that's what the country's built on is the Constitution, and it's not even sacred anymore. People think like we should get rid of it. It's like
we think we should rewrite it. What they don't understand is the forefathers. They didn't write it so simply that they weren't intelligent. They wrote it simply so it could last the test of time. They understood foresight. They could see what could come again. Because they've already, all these problems, here's the problem, people don't read things. Read common sense. Read things from 1800s. All these issues that we're experiencing now, they've already gone through that before. It was the same thing. They might not have used the term socialism or things like that, but a lot of those same things existed.
Yeah, the way that the Constitution and everything come together as a country, it's a miracle. We got the best of everything. People don't think America's the best country in the world anymore, and it's like you've got to go out and see what other people are experiencing.
Yeah, and that lack of pride is not good. That creates in people the drive to uphold something. Traditions are good too. I mean, it's like respecting the flag and showing pride in your country. That's a good thing. It's your home. It's the place that everybody escapes to.
Yeah.
If we're not, I'm not going to sit here and say we're the
That's what I was
best.
going to hit on real quick.
If we're not the best, I'm not going to make that claim. I believe that in my heart.
Yeah.
But let's just say that I'm not going to make that claim. Where is it that everybody escapes to in times of trouble?
That's what I was going to talk about. Is illegal immigration right now. It's like when they have the caravans. Why don't they just stop in Mexico? They're out of the war area, or they're a refugee. Why do they cross the border? Why are they coming to America? Why do they want to get free health care? Free benefits. All that other stuff. Free housing.
It's a land of opportunity because of the Constitution, because of our constitutional republic and the democracies inside of our states. That's what allows us to go. This is the one place on earth where you can come here, and whatever you're born into, you don't have to stay there. Where you're born is where you start, not where you finish.
Exactly.
If you finished where you started, you didn't take advantage of
absolutely not.
What God and a lot of patriots have allowed and provided for us.
Yeah, America has so much economic mobility up and down all the time. And we are the 1%. They talk about the 1%. In the world, we are the 1%. If you make like over 30,000, I think it is, you're top 1% in the world.
We also we've forgotten. We have become so accustomed to a good life. Think about it here.
Yep.
People walk around with personal computers, your phone.
Good times create weak men.
How many people have a personal computer in this country? Everybody. You don't have a job and you still have one. Right? Microwave, hot water, air conditioning. I have friends that went to Japan. Japan has a good economy. Ask them what it's like to have air conditioning all the time. They would love to have it.
I know.
And the thing is it's illegal immigration, and changing the terms again, redefining things to make them fit your narrative is dangerous.
Yeah,
when you call people undocumented immigrants, it's illegal, and you're softening the term to manipulate. Yeah. You're redefining what something is to manipulate people and constituents, people that you want to vote for you.
Yeah,
that's backhanded. It's not honorable at all. Like, it makes me sad. It makes me very sad because I have a lot of friends that have come here from Germany, New Zealand, South Africa. And all of them have come here legally. Venezuela.
That's what I'm saying.
I have friends that have come here legally through the immigration system. Now, can we make some adjustments in our immigration system?
For sure, yeah.
Absolutely. And that's a conversation in its own thing. But we can make some adjustments. Both sides can come together. Let's make some adjustments. But we cannot allow people to come across the border.
Yeah.
Families or not families. That is, you're opening a window for, say, I have friends that are working on the border. I know a lot of different people in the world. And let's just say they picked up 12 people. This is actually true. 12 people they picked up. 11 of them had backpacks. Of the 11 with backpacks, guess how many had drugs in them?
10.
11. Okay?
I was trying to be nice.
The one person that didn't was a child. Guess what? That child's family was nobody in that 11.
Yeah, the policies are crazy.
And 2 of the people were crying that their family was going to be killed because they were unable to deliver the goods. So that's cartel stuff. Now, listen, I'm not saying out of 10,000 people, everybody's doing that. But what percentage of that are you safe with allowing to happen?
Yeah, it's just, I hate when they position, like you're talking about, how conservatives aren't for immigration. It's like, I'm all for legal immigration as long as you pay your fair share, you get in the system, you don't cut in line.
I'm going to argue that right now.
Okay.
I am absolutely, as a conservative, for immigration. And other conservatives are too. Let me tell you why. Because people who come here legally, guess what? They love this country. They love this country.
Yeah.
They come here legally, they love this country. And the reason the left doesn't like that is because when people come here the right way and they learn the process, they go through the process, they become an American. I don't care where they come from. They become an American and they assimilate to becoming an American. They're like you and me.
Absolutely.
They're like you and me.
It goes against the fake narrative that they have.
Absolutely.
They're like, what is going on? Same thing with, we can get into it. I mean, we're about a half hour. I'm going to let you go. I really appreciate you coming on, man.
Blast.
Thank you so much.
Look forward to seeing you again.
Hey, before we get off of here, go to theconservativebrand.com. I don't know if you guys can see it. Liberal Tier shirt exclusively at The Conservative Brand. Go pick out a shirt, mug, whatever, hat. Check it out. Thanks for coming on, Rob. See you next time.
Take care.
All right. That's one for the Bucks.
Oh, you can get me back anytime.